here with Nuno Miller, the Chief Digital and Information Officer at Sonae Fashion, and we have a few questions for you today. The first one that we're going to start off with is, how can digital transformation and technology help with sustainability efforts?
Hi, Jenn. So that's a great question. So there are so many different things where digital can really speed up all the effort of sustainability. That's really important. So I can name a few. I can tell you blockchain, for instance. I'd say that blockchain would be a major impacting the technology in everything concerning global traceability of materials, products, processes. I mean, from raw materials to finished products, supply chain, recycling, and so on. I think that everything concerning the circular economy in terms of platforms, because digital allows us to have new business models for everything concerning refurbishment, marketplaces for used products, rental models, and so on. I think that work digitalization is also a great opportunity, as we see right now while we are facing the COVID pandemic situation with remote meetings, collaborative and virtual product design and development. There are some brands doing this in a great way, digital receipts, car sharing, and so on. I'd say everything concerning industry and office efficiency when it comes to better machines, to better, more efficient machines in terms of energy consumption, raw material consumption, and so on. I'd say that on data processing and AI, there are so many things where we can learn from data and improve models. I mean, in terms of planning, purchasing, allocation, replenishment, for instance, also regarding the efficiency of office lighting systems, for instance. I'd say virtual reality, namely right now also for virtual clothing, so reducing the amounts of production, reduce the amount of waste. Also agrotech on vertical farms, self-producing vegetables, for instance. I'd say electric transportation on buses, cars, trucks, better and cheaper solar power, plastic recycling. So technology is really making a huge difference in what we can do regarding sustainability.
Sounds like it. Thank you.
As a consumer, there's a lot of consumers out there that want to know that brands are driving some type of a change, right? I mean, we want to know before we buy a product from someone whether or not they're contributing to the good or to the worse of the world and the economy. Are there any specific examples that you can share with us, Nuno, of what Sonae has been doing to drive this change in sustainability?
Sure, Kosta. I'm quite proud of being part of Sonae, because Sonae is really taking a heavy point on this level on sustainability. Last week we had the Sonae gathering for executive leaders, and the main subject was exactly leading with purpose. So we take this very, very seriously. And over time, Sonae has been deploying a set of different initiatives in trying to make this happen on real terms. I mean, things as efficient power generation plants. We also have the industrial branch at Sonae. So it's really important to make sure that all the power that you consume on the industry is efficient and greener and greener. So we are doing this. We are changing some machinery, namely, for instance, continuous hydraulic press for wood-based products on wooden-based materials that has a higher efficiency, reduces the usage of raw materials, and it's much more efficient than before. We are at our electronics retailer brand, Wharton, we are doing electronics refurbishment, for instance. So instead of giving them away on recycling or sending them to waste, we refurbish and we sell them on outlets and so on. We are doing a project on transport backhauling, for instance, where the trucks that go to the stores to fulfill the products, instead of coming back empty, we are using that space to move products back to the office, to the plants, to the producers. We are committed to a high reduction on plastic usage, on packaging, on transport materials, and by reusing other plastics. And we are right now putting in place a new initiative to have a Sonae forest. So we are going to plant thousands and thousands of trees all along Portugal, so that we are able to came back to a more sustainable way of supporting all the carbon impact that we stand for.
Huge kudos to you and your brand for everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
I love that. And I especially love the idea of planting the forest, right? Because that's something we've enjoyed as a family, is planting trees and then watching them grow over time. Which kind of brings me to another question. 10 years from now, we could be looking at two very different futures. And I'm wondering, what your perspective is on, in 10 years, if we do all agree that now is the moment to act and start taking action, for climate change and sustainability. What does our future look like in 10 years versus if we continue down the path of not doing anything at all?
Well, that's an excellent question. I think that 10 years might be a long time, but also might be a short time. So when we look to the future, I just saw earlier this week the new documentary film from David Attenborough about life in our planet. And basically he says that if we don't do anything differently, in 50 or 60 years, we will be facing the 6th mass extinction in Earth. So all of the humankind will be completely extincted from Earth. So I think that this is the kind of view that we should have in the top of our minds, and we must act accordingly, not to have this succeeding. So obviously that this might happen in 50 or 60 or 70 years, but the question is, if we don't act right now, we might come to a non-return situation where then it will be too late to come back. So I think that we really need right now to have this into our plans, to do things in order to change the situation, and not to just discuss and have some ideas that never get out of the paper and out of the televisions and so on. So it's so important to do things, and I do think that if we are able to do the proper things, we'll be able to have a world powered again by the sun, and using clean energy sources other than coal and petrol and so on. I think that we'll be able to take a much wiser usage of the natural resources that we have. I mean, water, meat, plants. We need to approach this, to have a different approach on how to take usage of all the resources that the world is giving us. And we could even improve our individual agriculture capacity, so that each one of us has a very small farm at our home where we are able to produce our vegetables and then get rid of all this carbon massive production due to the industrial farming capabilities. So we need to put in place the long-term and sustainable mindset immediately, and to have the capacity of start fully recycling all the materials that we use, from the natural ones to plastics.
Mm-hmm. That is super compelling. And just hearing you say that, I'm thinking about, 50 years from now, I'm looking at my eldest daughter, graduating law school in a couple of years, probably getting married, and then imagining her kids, in their lifetime facing this. So I think that's one of the most compelling things that I've heard so far about why right now really is the time to act. I really appreciate you being here with us and helping to bring all these things to light.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. And indeed, it's getting very, very, very suddenly happening to us. So we need to be moving really fast.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for your time, Nuno. As I mentioned earlier, as consumers, we need to do our part. As Jenn just mentioned, her children, the future of this world. This is our home. It's a home for everybody that lives on this planet. We don't have another planet. We haven't colonized the moon. We haven't colonized Mars, and we're far away from reaching Alpha Centauri. We need to maintain this planet that we have for today and for the future. Otherwise, we will have nothing to live on. Thank you again, Nuno, for your time. We really appreciate it. Again, everyone, Nuno Miller,